Hey everybody, Drew Hay from Phil Hay & Sons. So another episode, part 2 of Pond Building Pros on sealing a leaky pond. So if you watched the previous episode, you've seen what we did was we over excavated this area 2 feet and we got it down to strata that was really kind of subpar. And if you remember correctly, we showed you it was a clay shale that we could take and pulverize, and you can see what behind me, what had happened here was my guy Braden took and he pulverized it with the sheep's foot roller. And then what I did was I just back drug it, because those of you that know what a sheep's foot does, it leaves a lot of pockets and it makes it a little bit cumbersome to push this thing. So we back drug it with the dozer real quick just to smooth it out so that we can take and use this spreader. So you can see this white color behind me. This is part 1 and part 2 of the leak polymer. So what we did was we took, this is what we use to apply it, or we'll even take and use a normal grass seeder you just throw over your shoulder or something like that. Depends on how big the pond is. This one here, we elected to do it because it's a little bit warm today. And here's what I will tell you, for a little tidbit of advice. You can see if I'm sweating here, and that stuff sticks to you and you turn into swamp thing. So you turn into complete slime and it's a mess. So we elected to use this today because it makes it a little bit easier. It gets stuck to your foot, but this is pretty dry. If it's in a wet condition, you'll have it stuck to your foot and it strings like crazy and it makes a mess, but sometimes that's what you have to do. So anyhow, what we did was we set this at wide open setting. It's how we applied it. We put part 1 down and part 2, and this is what it looks like when you're done. Now, with that being said, again, going back to over excavating the 2 feet extra, what that does is that does a couple different things for us. One, unfortunately, none of us have x-ray vision. So what that does, by taking that 2 feet out, we can see what we're dealing with. We know we're going to be putting that 2 foot back in and putting the pond basin back in to pretty close to what it originally was, but we're going to have it sealed. So by doing that, we was able to get down, we was able to identify different leak areas where we had the shale, and we've got some different type of strata here. We've got a little bit of vertical strata, and then we've got some horizontal. The vertical is the worst to deal with because whenever rocks are standing on end, especially in mountainous regions like Tennessee, Kentucky, parts of Virginia and North Carolina, you know, and Appalachia, that stretch, and even out in the Rockies, you guys get your rocks standing up on an end, so that's a little bit tougher to deal with, and you got to be able to identify that type of strata. So anyhow, there's a couple areas where we had the vertical strata. I over excavated it an additional foot, so we actually went to 3 feet. And then what we did, like I said, we pulverized it with the roller, put the polymer down. You can see what we got. Now I feel real comfortable with this. Now if you're in real rocky, and even your soil that you're going to be putting back on top, your earth, if it isn't a real good clay consistency, you may want to go to a little bit heavier. So this entire area we did with 1 unit of polymer, which is 2 50-pound bags. You got a 50-pound bag of part 1 and you got a 50-pound bag of part 2. So that we did this entire area with 1 unit of polymer. All right, so now what we're going to do is this earth here beside me that we've blended. It's got some shale in it, some sand, some clay, but the thing is what I'm looking for is I'm looking for cohesion. High plasticity clay is the optimum situation, but chances are if you have that on site, you're not going to have to be using polymer. This stuff here, we were able to take it and blend it all together and make a earth that I'm happy with to be able to use, and I can make a nice ball with it. It stays together. I drop it, it stays together. It's got a nice cohesion to it. You can get that with sandier loams too as well, that's got some clay consistency to it. And I tell you guys, I have used this on pure sand ponds and had great success with it doing this method. Now, I didn't mention it in the first video. Again, we do this. This is polymer that we get from Thomas Hudson. I call him TJ, like you said, good friend of mine. But he coined a term for this process that we developed here at Phil Hay & Sons, and we call it the Oreo cookie method. Because essentially, that's what we're doing, is we're putting the polymer, the cream filling in the center, and then we're going to put the cookie on top in layers. So we're going to bring all this earth back in 6-inch layers now, and we're going to take it and compact it. Now, if you've got rockier ground, you might have to go to thin layers. That's what separates a pond builder from just your average excavator. So this is pretty simple to us, but again, we've been doing this for decades now as far as building ponds. The polymer applications that we were doing, we just developed this system, again, like I said, within house, using the product from TJ that we've had great 100% success with. We've got, I think this is going to be the 16th pond now that we've done this way, and we have yet to have one not filled. So it works out very, very well, and like I said, it's a very good success rate. the thing is guys, here's what I want to tell you. Leaky ponds, the first thing I always hear is bentonite. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I have never used bentonite on one pond we've ever done. Ever. All right? Now, I know there's some of you out there, they're going to see this video that may be contractors and be like, well, bentonite's the way it is. Well, here's the thing with bentonite, okay? You got sodium bentonite, you got potassium bentonite, you can get bentonite gel, you can get chips, all different sizes and everything. But you got to bring it in super sacks or dump truck loads. It's harder to handle. And then you take, and what do? You take, you put it down in, kind of similar to what we're doing, disc it in, and then you take it and compact it. The thing is, that's a lot of work. This, 250-pound bags, guys, done. Take it, put the earth back in, roll it, real simple, it's very efficient, and I just really like this. Bentonite, if I had a quarter for every time that I've heard bentonite being used and it failed, I could retire. And I still got a ways to go yet in my career. So, but at any rate, we're going to do a part 3 following this video that is going to show the finished product here. And again, you guys know what to do. Questions, comments, right down there, guys, and we'll be sure to answer them. All right, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for part 3.